Hey, and welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
I'm Josh.
And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Good news, everyone.
Yo, I like that we ended the last week's episode with like the horrible rendition of
Old Lang Sang or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you guys spend your New Year?
Working.
Because you guys work at a bar, and it's like the busiest night.
Yeah, and then Josh was there apparently, but didn't say hi to either of us.
The fucking goes to walks.
Goes to Bales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he didn't technically bail because he was there. He made it, but
He never
just,
RSVP'd.
Yeah, he checked in on Facebook, but didn't let any of us know that he was coming.
I mean, I didn't really get any formal invites to any shindigs.
Right.
I wasn't really wanting to spend it in a very loud, crowded, people-centric event.
Well, you came to the wrong place.
That's
You
typically
done
not my event.
goofed.
But then I figured, wait, no, I have a friend who just checked in there, and I know she's going to get fucking rated. So I figured instead of her having to get a Uber, which she'd have to pay out the asshole for, I'd be the sober ride for her. So I spent the entire day either drinking tea, Red Bull, or Coca-Cola.
Sweet.
What did you do, Sam?
I had lunch with a friend out in D.C. that's recently moved back to the area, and me and her are going to see Muse on February 1st at the Verizon Center. Which
Jason
is
Mewes?
Fantastic.
Yes, Jason Mewes. I've already seen Jason Mewes.
I've talked to him about Laserdiscs.
Yeah, I just said hi in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Actually, I just pointed him out to Jake, and Jake said hi, really.
Yeah.
But, no, yeah, so I'm going to see Muse, and then after that, I was like, well, I've got this New Year's party all the way in, like, Northwest that I've been invited to. I've got, like, 5 hours. I'm in the middle of D.C. They've got a roadshow showing of the Hateful Eight over in Gallery Place in between there. I'm going to watch the fucking Hateful Eight roadshow.
There you go.
And that's what I did, and then I went over there and, watched the Capitals lose, and then just I drank and rang in the new year. And it was cool because there was, like, people there because I always take for granted that we live in a kind of like in and around a major metropolis. So there's a lot of people, especially that party in particular, that aren't being a local. Like most of us are local boys to a degree. Even Jake is after he moved from like Georgia or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I always take for granted that there's people that have recently moved here from like say like the Midwest or from like the South or whatever to find work over in DC, and so it was really cool. I was like, oh man, yeah, because I always take that for granted. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I usually take DC for granted in general.
It's kind of a hassle to get out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy like a lot of other like cities like New York. There's like a million different entrances. You can get there.
And the subway's nicer than the metro.
Exactly. So like getting to Manhattan isn't a problem. You know, from like no matter what direction you're coming from. But like
unless
DC,
you live in Staten Island.
Yeah. But if you live in Staten Island, you probably hate yourself. Take that, Staten Island.
It also doesn't help that, like, the organizational structure of DC was designed by a Frenchman, so...
That's the problem? That's
Yes.
the issue? Not the Washington Metro Area Transit Authority?
Or the Illuminati. Or Freemasons in this case.
I mean, let's be honest, it all amounts to one massive problem where I just like to picture DC doesn't exist. There's just empty space on the map.
it's like Wyoming.
Like, if
Is your reality of DC like Fallout 3?
No, my reality of DC is more like one of the most recent... Well, the final season of Haven, which I'm not going to say...
Good, because
for-
I'm only like halfway through season 4.
For fear of spoiling Chris, but anyone who's familiar with the final season of Haven will understand of how I would...
Croatoan and all that.
Yeah.
Is it like Shatner?
Is it like under the dome?
I wish.
And more
No.
outside the dome?
No, not even to that extent, because again, to them, it still exists.
I think what Josh is trying to say is that he just likes to avoid DC at all costs.
Like it's the plague.
Yeah.
It in
Or
Maryland.
the plaque.
I always love my time in DC. It's just a pain in the ass to get there.
Yeah.
Because the cool thing was, like, my grandparents used to live out in Arlington, which is like just right across the river. And when I was growing up, it's cheaper than like taking me out to like fucking whatever, like Chuck E. Cheese. They would take me out to the mall and they would take me out to the Smithsonian because you had these like big museums that were air conditioned and just like they were one of the cool things about DC is most of our museums are free.
Donations expected or not expected. Preferred.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't need it.
That's what the taxpayers are for.
Yeah, it is partially subsidized, but it's also kept open thanks to viewers like you. But
thanks PBS.
Yeah, so that's I always kind of have fun. It brings me back whenever I'm in DC.
Yeah, there's always the every once in a while when I do end up in DC, I always find something to do. Yeah. But
it's kind of a young hip town now.
Is it?
Yeah,
that's not what I seek out. So
I mean, sure.
Yeah, you go to like DuPont Circle, or you go to the U Street corridor, which is where I was at, this past weekend, the New Year's weekend. But it's up and coming, guys. It's
The only time I'm ever really up there is for like in recent
Nats games.
is like the Capitals or Nats.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, I was up there a couple weeks ago. My dad and I saw the Capitals, but that's really it. It hasn't been like a social scene for me really ever, and I've lived here for 20 years.
Here's the thing. You know how back at AwesomeCon last year they were promoting the opening of the Indiana Jones exhibit at the National Geographic Museum?
Yeah.
This past weekend was the last weekend that thing was open. I remember getting the program for it at AwesomeCon last year, and I was like, I've got like 9 months. I'll totally see the fucking Indiana Jones exhibit.
Never saw it.
Actually see the Indiana Jones exhibit.
I remember my friend Zach, who works for Nat Geo, was like there like opening weekend. Was like, guys, it's so cool. Come see it. And I was like, we'll get there.
Now,
and then completely forgot about it until you just mentioned it.
Like a few years ago when the Star Wars exhibit came through the Air and Space Museum.
Yes.
Did you?
I did
Go and see that.
I saw that. I saw the Star Trek exhibit that they also had, which I think predated it.
Yeah, which I guess kind of says something of the public mindset of where, there's a chance to see that at a science museum, and then the Indiana Jones one, I'm sure the attendance for that was probably tiny.
I don't know.
No
honestly,
idea.
I'm just taking a wild,
I think you're just
speculative
still annoyed
guess.
at Star Wars.
well, here's the thing. Until I saw the ads for the Indiana Jones exhibit, I had no fucking idea there's a National Geographic Museum.
Same. To counter what you said, Josh, I never saw the Star Wars or Star Trek, and I am just as much of a fanboy for both of those things as he's probably more Trek than I am, but we're about the same on Star Wars.
I don't have the original. I mean, how many times do you have the original? How many times do you own the original trilogy?
2 VHSs, 2 Laserdiscs, 1 DVD, and then the Harmies despecialized. So 5.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember if I counted the doubles.
I have it on VHS, like the special edition VHS, and I have the original DVD release, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yes, he wins on the Star Wars scale.
And then I also do have, I guess at this point, all 7 or the first 7 Star Trek movies on Laserdisc, as well as the animated series in its entirety.
Well, I do foresee in the future that exhibit, probably now with modifications made to it, additions, subtractions, multiplications.
Well, that exhibit...
Parentheticals.
Coming again in the future, probably.
That exhibit was released before the special editions came out. If anything, it kind of restoked the interest nationally. Mm-hmm. It was. I feel like it was a tie-in to when they released the original trilogy on THX VHS.
The faces.
Yeah, where it's like Yoda face, Stormtrooper face, and Vader face.
Which it never made sense to me that they had the Stormtrooper face.
Well, it's the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, but I feel like it should have been like a bigger, not just like Stormtrooper, but like more like maybe like
Boba
have
Fett.
that one be the Darth Vader face, and then like the first one be like fucking Luke.
It's funny because
Obi-Wan.
A New Hope
Obi-Wan.
has Vader face, and he's in it for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
The second one has Stormtrooper face, where it's like snowtroopers are almost in that thing more than anything else.
Yeah,
And the
'cause you don't
third
see
one
him
has
until
Yoda
Cloud
face,
City.
and Yoda dies in that one. You know what I mean?
He's not even in the original script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I foresee an attraction similar to that making its rounds again.
I mean,
it would
well,
be-
they've
there's
got
the
the
Marvel
Disney-
experience going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's been going on
since like right before Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Because they got that Disney money.
Yeah.
They can afford to do it.
Yeah, just toss
Yeah, they
it.
have like a huge scene up in New York,
Tossing it like
which
salads.
I think might still be there.
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. exhibit at the Discovery Building?
Well, that as well, but just like Shield / Avengers exhibit.
Yeah. I also wanted to do the never did it because they had it at the International Spy Museum in honor of the 50th anniversary of the franchise. I never swung by the Spy Museum because I've never been to the Spy Museum.
It's amazing.
Because it's one of the ones you have to pay for.
But it's amazing. It's
I'm
worth every penny.
not saying it's not.
Spared no expense.
I have heard that it wasn't worth the money until about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
When they got like a revamp or something like that.
Well, yeah, and 3 years ago for the 50th anniversary, they had the James Bond exhibit.
Yeah, I heard that was like one of the first big things that they had that was like, oh, okay, now I'm getting my money's worth.
Yeah.
The only paid DC museum I've ever been to is the Newseum. And back when it was at its original location in Roslyn. Yeah.
Oh,
that building's still there, the giant dome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
cool. I wish they were using it for something. I think that it still has like the theater.
They use it in the season 1 finale of The West Wing.
Funny enough,
that's where Martin Sheen gets shot.
Yeah.
When my
actual Martin Sheen, President Bartlett.
When my father worked in Roslyn for Raytheon, his building was the one on the other side of the sky bridge that connected the two buildings.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime I went to visit my dad at work, I'd just take that across, go and visit the museum.
Yeah. But yeah, so
you saw the Hateful Eight.
I did, and so did you guys, right?
Yes.
Though,
all but Josh.
But you guys saw the general release?
Technically.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can get into that later, but yes, I saw the standard, the non-roadshow release.
What'd you guys think?
I'll let Jake go because he.
I mean, at the end of the day, I am glad I didn't see the roadshow because, I mean, it would have looked nice, but I didn't need 20 more minutes of that movie.
To be fair, 15 of that 20 minutes is overture 3 overture and the intermission.
That's even worse because that's fine with the music, and I love that Tarantino's doing this, like bringing the old school film, and I also like that he's given the option because I do like that he's still a film guy. I do like that he's trying to preserve this thing with he did with Grindhouse and stuff. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I would have been probably bummed out to spend the extra money to go do all that because I honestly like I said, I never hated the movie, but I very rarely loved it at moments. And I think it was just kind of, at the end of the day, just kind of a long, drawn-out, unnecessary Quentin Tarantino movie. And I really loved, I think, like the most constant moments where I really enjoyed it was like the beginning where you meet them on the stagecoach. That felt very Tarantino-esque. I mean, the whole thing obviously does, but
stagecoach stuff doesn't feel as long as it is.
No, and I was really digging that stuff. And then when they get to the haberdashery, it started to really lose me. And it wasn't anything for like the writing or the characters. Really, it just nothing was going on. And again, I kind of knew that was going to happen. But Tarantino's done that before, like with Reservoir Dogs, where really nothing happens, but you're still enthralled by it. And I never really felt enthralled by it. And there's a moment. Of course, we're going to talk some spoilers about it, but there's this Abraham Lincoln letter that's throughout kind of the running thing throughout the movie, the whole movie really. And Kurt Russell's character is like in awe of this. And there's a moment where they're having stew, and I wanted to eat stew so bad after watching the movie, but it's revealed that it's fake, and it breaks Kurt Russell's character, and that was for me the most interesting like character moment in the movie for me.
It's mad at John Ruth that I hurt your feelings.
Yeah, and he's like, a matter of fact, you did, and I was just like, fuck yeah. But again, everyone brings their A game. You know what I mean? Like Tarantino's so good at bringing actors to their potential or past it, and kind of like the Escape from New York, L.A. deal where Kurt Russell's very much doing a Clint Eastwood.
I would argue more. Big Trouble, where he's doing a John Wayne. He's straight up.
No. I mean, like he did in that. He's channeling Clint Eastwood. This he's channeling John Wayne.
Yeah.
He's doing that thing where he's channeling.
Quotes The Searchers.
Yeah. He's like very much, pulling from other genres, which I like when he does that because that's what made Snake kind of endearing. One of the reasons that made Snake endearing. And
I mean, if you're talking Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, I think the biggest influence here.
Well, yeah. Again, yeah. The film itself is the thing. which at the end of the day,
without science fiction.
yeah, and
Though it uses 3 pieces of unused Morricone work
it does,
in the Hateful Eight.
and the
from the
score,
thing, because he originally scored the thing.
yeah, the score works really well, really haunting, really kind of creepy, really
Sinister,
unsettling.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah. I didn't. I wasn't quite expecting it to be like a high tension movie, but so the version that I saw was trying to be the Roadshow,
A hybrid.
Yeah, I saw it at the Alamo Drafthouse in Ashburn, and they had put the overture at the beginning, and they had put the intermission in the middle, even though they didn't have the Roadshow. They just kind of made it as much the Roadshow as possible, and the trailers made it seem like kind of like a not, I don't want to say a fun romp, but like it made it look not as tensiony and
not as menacing.
Yeah, but like that overture kicks in, and I'm just like, this is ooky spooky,
Well, I bought it, the overture, as soon as I got home, and I was playing it around the house. My sister was like, "Is that like Danny Elfman and Tim Burton?" I'm like, "No."
Yeah, and like I'm just like, ooh, okay. And it did I feel like it did a really good job of setting the mood, like and informing me that I was a little wrong with what I was going in expecting. Like for the most part, I got what I wanted, but like the mood was just like, no. Here's the mindset you need to be in for the movie. And I thought, I loved the fact that they included the overture, and then the intermission too. I think comes in at a great time. Like the intermission's the same time as if you see the Roadshow. It has a full stop. The movie, like it stops, and like. I feel bad for anyone that sees it without the intermission, in my opinion, just because it like without having seen it the regular show, I feel like it would be a kind of a jarring place to be, especially since when it comes back in after the intermission, it starts up with that Quentin Tarantino narration, and I'm sure everyone can not can handle like him being like, well, it's been about 15 minutes and being like, oh, it's only been like 30 seconds. Like I don't think people are that dumb, but
I'll tell you that like it worked totally fine for me, because Tarantino works with time in such a weird way that almost was like a perfect Tarantino thing for the screen to go black, and then it comes back up, and it's like, it's been 15 minutes. Let me fill you in.
Okay, does it? So it drops and comes right back up?
It fades to black. It's black for a second or two, and then it fades back up. So yeah, it's not like it slams shut and then it cuts to like there's just a cut of like them dealing with the body and being like, it's been 15 minutes.
I think, I feel like in my head, like I just was like, oh God, when I was thinking about what it would be like at a non-roadshow version, where like I just had like flashbacks to like my laser discs of Star Wars, where every single like scene change is a crossfade. So in order to make the side changes work, they just had to cut it at the beginning of the crossfades and the end of the crossfades, so you lose that second, and it's just like the most jarring cut ever, just because you're so used to it like fading. But like I don't know, I loved it. I thought it was well paced. It didn't feel like 3 hours to me, even with the intermission and the excuse me, or the music.
Overture, yeah.
Thank you. I said it like 10 times before, and I can't. Oh well. I will agree that when they get into the haberdashery and fucking Kurt Russell is literally just walking up to every single person's like, who are you? What are you doing here? Like, and like it doesn't like chop that up at all. Like it just hears everyone's little bit of dialogue. Like I even felt like it started to get sluggish at that point, but
like I said, it picks up, and once it picks up, it never got back to that kind of slow point. And again, I don't even take this as like
the entire second half. You're like, oh fuck,
it starts running and doesn't stop until everyone's dead.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's one of those rare films where literally every person you see on the screen, flashback, silent cameo, they're going to die.
And
die horribly.
I spent like once they got to the haberdashery, like I started like just like my brains started turning, especially once once the seed had been planted that like someone there is in cahoots with what's her name?
Daisy Domergue.
Yeah. Like that. Once that got planted, I started like kind of like jumping around, like, you know, Tim Curry and Clue, like just being like, oh, who's and like I was like, I hope Tim Roth is like the guy. But then like I was like, well, what about this guy? You know, like and I was like, you know what? I bet you by the end of this movie, like Reservoir Dogs style, like everyone's gonna be dead. You know. Or at least mostly, you know, like fucking Buscemi gets away in Reservoir Dogs. But I'm like, I hope just it ends in a bloodbath, and I was satisfied.
Oh yeah, no, I mean the Tarantino violence is there in full form.
Yeah. And one of my biggest praises for it actually is Channing Tatum's existence in the movie.
Yeah, I like Channing Tatum.
Like I had no idea that Channing Tatum was going to be in it, and I'm glad that I had no idea. Like I go in having not seen anything that references that Channing Tatum was going to be in it, and like I'm sitting there watching the credits, and Channing Tatum's name pops up on the screen, and I'm like, the fuck, he's in this movie, and that was in the back of my head the entire first half, and then. By the time, right before his character is introduced, because his character is introduced like what right after you come back from the intermission, if I remember correctly, or is it?
Kind of, because the shit hits the fan, and then not Tarantino, Samuel Jackson gets shot in the balls, and that's like when it's like, oh, and then they do the four passengers.
Yeah, so
it's my favorite chapter.
Yeah, so right before Channing Tatum gets introduced on screen. I'm like, what was the name in the credits that I remember seeing that I was flabbergasted was in this? Like, it was a big name. Who was it? And then he just pops up and he's like, say adios to your huevos.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, oh shit, Channing Tatum's in this, you know? And like, not that I'm like a huge Channing Tatum fan or anything like that, but I love the way that like we've said, Quentin Tarantino brings out everyone's A game.
Yeah.
And I was just so excited to see what he was going to do with Tatum.
Yeah, he was good.
And I thought that he did a great job in a Tarantino movie, and it was like just the way that Tarantino would like, you know, sew him into it. And I'm so glad that he got his head blown off like 2 seconds later.
When the look on his face, I knew that. Like, I think everyone knew it was coming.
And, oh my god,
it's the loudest crowd reaction.
If I can get into a little bit of gore porn, like I'm not crazy about gore porn, but there are certain things.
Oh, you're not the only one, Chris.
Right? But there are certain things that I just love, like when directors don't hold back, like when he gets his head blown off and the blood sprays on her face. Daisy, thank you. Why on Daisy's face?
Just think Super Mario Brothers the movie.
Less memorable princess.
Yeah, but such a great movie.
Oh yeah,
commentary available now.
Yeah, but when the blood splatter hits her face, it's not just blood, but there's actually like chunks of brain
Viscera,
and stuff like that. Yeah. I was just like,
that's like a callback to like Pulp Fiction style. You know, when
exactly.
You got like,
yeah, I was.
You know who does the makeup effects for the Hateful Eight?
Who?
Greg Nicotero from The Walking Dead.
There you go. It makes so much sense. Yeah, but like I was just like, fuck yeah, and I loved the fact that Daisy spent almost like less than like 2 minutes without blood on her face in this entire movie. Like there's one scene where she's like I think the first time you see her, all she's got is a black eye, and then like within like 5 minutes, like fucking Kurt Russell's like elbowing her in the face, and then she's got this bloody nose just raining down, and then pretty much throughout the rest of the movie, she has blood like covering her, and I don't know why, but I loved that.
Yeah, I mean, fucking Kurt Russell vomits blood all over.
Yeah, that too. And
that was the biggest crowd reaction when I
OB,
saw it.
Or what?
OB,
yeah, like
it's Evil Dead style.
Yeah, the two of them just vomiting blood. Like, yeah, it was like watching Evil Dead in all the best senses, and just.
I also really like Kurt Russell's thing about like when Samuel Jackson asked why he always brings him in alive. And he's just like, feels wrong to cheat the hangman. You know what I mean? Like he's got a job to do. And I remember being like,
that's his moral code there.
Yeah, and the whole talk about frontier justice and justice, like all that stuff.
Yeah,
that was probably my favorite, like just like dialogue they had between it.
Really, it's my least favorite.
Yeah.
I was like, you could probably trim that one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of things that he probably could have trimmed, but like I thought it was a very Quentin Tarantino.
It felt
kind of
very
thing.
Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. It was
explaining something for you that only he could do.
It was kind of like the Royale with cheese, interaction. Like, yeah, that could have been trimmed.
Yeah,
but it was a nice little thing.
But it sets up the whole motivation later for Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? For at the
Though
end.
he's not present for that conversation.
Yeah. But I mean, but we are to know that, like, that's...
But we know.
Yeah. And that's all that matters.
And can we take a minute to just, like, kind of give a little golf clap to Walton Goggins?
Hey, man. Glad to see that you're doing well outside of Justified.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite show.
Of all time.
Of all time.
You know, I've speaking of favorite shows of all time, you guys will, particularly you two, will be pleased to. I've started rewatching the X-Files in preparation for this month's revival.
There you go.
I'm assuming because I know you did something similar. I'm assuming you're done by now.
Yes, I finished. I finished before going to New York Comic Con, which was nice because they showed the first episode. But yeah, and I wanted to like be very firm, watch every single episode because I'd never actually seen every single episode. I had done a rewatch. Like, I mean, I watched it when I was a kid and it was on TV, and then I had done a rewatch a couple years ago in preparation for the second movie. But like by the time I hit like season 7 and 8, I kind of just started like cherry picking episodes to watch. Like I think. Post the first movie, I just looked up like which episodes are the canon or not the canon episodes, but the
world building.
Yeah. Not the monsters. I skipped most of the monsters of the week. So this
which
time,
was like the show's original bread and butter.
Yeah. Well,
which also was fucking bread and butter of the second movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Which I think was part of the reason why I was so disappointed with the second movie because I was like. I wanted it to be about aliens.
It only does a tiny little bit of world building, but that really doesn't happen until like the final scene.
Yeah. And especially after the first movie, if you like listen to like Kumail Nanjiani talk about it on his X-Files podcast, like after the first movie, the world building episodes kind of like fall off, and the only good episodes are the Monsters of the Week. I don't 100% agree with him on that, but in general, they got a lot better with the Monsters of the Week. They're pretty much the reason why the term Monsters of the Week was coined, and like
predates Buffy.
Yeah,
predates Supernatural.
Yeah, so this time I was determined. I was like, I'm gonna watch every single episode, and then. Same thing kind of happened where I just like, I think it was, how many seasons is it? 9?
Does Home come after the movie or before it?
After. I think it's one of like the first 5 episodes after the first movie.
Okay, well, yeah, that would definitely build up with the whole, they get really better at the Monster of the Week
I'm
ones.
pretty sure. Don't take my word for it. Don't tweet at me, yelling at me that I got it wrong, Zach, since you're the only one that tweets at us. I think what is it total? Like 9 seasons currently. Seasons 8 and 9 are the ones that are very light on David Duchovny, and
for obvious reasons.
Yeah, because of him. But so like by the time I got to that point, like I would like watch like the first act and be like, do I want to watch the rest of this? And then like skip it for some of them. Like so technically speaking, there's still like 5 episodes that I haven't seen in their entirety. So, but otherwise, I have seen every single episode, and I'm ready for the next season.
I mean,
or the miniseries.
They bring on the T-1000. He never once turns into liquid metal while solving a case,
or changes his identity, or changes his face.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Although they did have a Monster of the Week that did that.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Not liquid metal, but was able to.
Aww.
Speaking of liquid metal,
changelings.
Speaking of liquid metal, Jake and Josh and I saw The Big Short, which has absolutely zero liquid metal, but
it is the Star Wars of the financial crisis of 2008.
Yes, the financial crisis awakens.
Sorry, I've been using that line a lot at my movie theater.
The Star Wars
because,
of this.
Because people are like, do I want to watch Star Wars? No, that's all sold out. Well, what about The Big Short? And I'm like, well, it is the Star Wars of the financial... And it gets a little chuckle because people pity me.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. But honestly, it's one of my favorite films of the year. I certainly think it's like the most important film of the year.
Now, is that of 2016 or
No,
2015?
15. I saw it in 15.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2015.
It got a wide release in 15. Yeah,
Well, I don't know when you saw it.
Yeah.
I just know that I wasn't there.
yeah, yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's another real knockout performance by Christian Bale. Steve Carell's very good. Ryan Gosling brings it.
Using whatever accent that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that was. I'm guessing that's what the actual guy sounds like. Or God help Steve Carell. But no, it was. I remember my dad is very interested in the movie. He read the book. Again, we'll never see it in the theaters, but he will eventually see it on, DVD or something. And he was like, "How was the movie?" I was like, it was funny and scary and blah blah blah. And he goes, "Wait, what movie did you see?" And I was like, "The Big Short." And he goes, "I didn't think it would be funny." He's like very much, why would that be funny? And it's funny in the sense of seeing these guys interact with each other and the performances. Yeah. But there's at the end of the day, there's nothing funny about what happened in reality in that movie.
It's like how funny Hayden Christensen is in Shattered Glass.
Or if there's any comedic moments in Spotlight.
Yeah, again, there's comedic moments in Spotlight.
But at the end of the day, it's not a laughing matter what it's investigating.
Let me ask you this, Josh, because you've seen both.
Yes, and I absolutely loved both.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Is there one that edges out for you? Because again, like Sam was saying, both very important movies of exposing something that happened.
Yes.
In real life situations and in our lifetime fairly recently too, which is even more insane.
One that would have actually not extremely directly, but one I have felt the effects of more than definitely the other.
Yeah. I'm assuming the Big Short
yes.
as opposed to Spotlight. Yeah.
Yes, but these both are the kind of films I love to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like investigative pieces.
Yeah.
Ones that just develop around a really intriguing story after the fact.
Yeah.
And kind of how they came to conclusions, or just, being taken on the journey that these other real people went along.
Sure.
And that's why you love the Captain America movies.
Yeah.
And Adam McKay, the director of Step Brothers fame.
That was
movies.
a huge shock when I found out that, after seeing the film, finding out that he directed it.
Yeah. But, he brings something to it that I think what makes Adam McKay a special director is he brought, that humor where they will... Because, again, it's a movie that, if you don't understand... I never felt dumber and smarter watching a movie at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand all that stuff.
Neither do I.
And so they bring in certain people to explain it to you and dumb it down in certain ways that, it's not ever pandering. It's very much like, hey, no, this is the words, the vocabulary we're using. This is what this means. Let me explain it to you in Jenga form.
And each one they use popular celebrities to explain a lot of the financial lingo. And each one they choose for those specific scenes, I think they really went out of their way for, how the scene is made. For the one with Margot Robbie, she's wearing absolutely nothing in a bathtub, drinking a flute of champagne, if I remember correctly. And she's explaining one of the more in-depth financial terms in the film. And they frame it in a way where your directions, or your attention's made to be drawn specifically to her for this very in-depth scene.
Yeah.
So I think that was really, really well done.
Yeah, it sheds to light something that again fairly recently and affected a lot of people, millions of people.
The entire global economy, in fact.
So billions of people.
Yeah, there's a scene where two of the know-nothings in the film, because they're not of known stature in acting yet, are working with Brad Pitt's character. And he's basically they're into trading on the market. And they're celebrating because they think we're about to make millions, billions of dollars. And
squillions?
Sure. And Brad Pitt's explaining to them, you fuckers. He doesn't say that, but you realize you're getting excited for that. If you're right, this will destroy the American economy.
Yeah.
This is nothing to be happy about.
I mean, Adam McKay was on Colbert, and he was talking about, the people that you're rooting for in this film, for them to win means everybody else has to lose. And that's a very...
Badly.
Very interesting problem to have in a movie when you're watching it.
I mean,
and again, there's not like, and as it should be, there's not like a big we won celebratory, like, yeah, we fucked over, there's none of that.
But again, end, there's a sobering moment for everyone, and not like a happy sobering moment.
They realize the implications. It's a Pyrrhic victory on a global scale.
Like, out of all of them, I'd say Steve Carell has the biggest sobering moment out of the whole group.
Well, it goes from like whatever kind of perform. I mean, it's a good performance, but I don't.
It's like a shit-kicking, no nonsense, I'm going to take on everyone kind of role, which I love.
Just kind of like
I identify with that.
Yeah.
You do like to kick shit.
Yes.
I do like how they deal with some things where, Ryan Gosling, because Ryan Gosling's very much like our chaperone through the movie.
He's jacked to the tits.
And he turns to the camera and he'll be like, look, I know this isn't how it happened in real life, but this is how we're going to do it for the story, blah, blah, blah. Or he'll turn to the camera and be like, that's exactly how it happened. I was there. Like, it's word for word how this happened.
Yeah.
So is it kind of like breaking the fourth wall, like Wolf of Wall Street?
Well, yeah. But
very intentional with his moments.
But it's not something that they don't beat you over the head with it.
It kind of works as almost a good companion piece to it.
Yeah, and
sure.
I have heard, like, at my theater, a lot of people compare it to Wolf of Wall Street, like, especially with like the way that the humor is used and stuff like that, like a similar humor, not quite as outlandish. This is all what they're saying, so I have no idea.
I've seen both films, so I don't think like the outlandish humor of Wolf of Wall Street is ever really shown in this one. The only times it gets close is with Gosling's character.
Yeah, it's a bit more grounded, this one.
Yeah.
Is.
And I have to say, one of the most beautiful performances I saw out of it was Christian Bale's character. Now,
I do keep hearing that he does a great job in it.
I'm just taking a wild speculative guess, and this is also from what my mom has said from interviews she's heard of the film and reviews of it, that he plays someone that, if I had to guess, would say is on the spectrum of autism. If not that, then just a true idiot savant of a sense. Of just, he's very calculating in how he discovers what's going on with the market, what is about to happen. His human interactions with other people within the film is very cold, but not intentional. It's just how his character acts within the world.
Right.
And seeing how his portrayal through the film progresses and everything that happens with him was quite endearing.
And he's pretty isolated for most of it. I mean, he does interact with some people.
Yeah.
But he's pretty much outside of like his basement jamming to Pantera.
Or in his office.
He's in his office, you know.
And that isolation, I feel, kind of comes with, again, if he is on the spectrum, just naturally of how that person is in real life.
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene where he's asked, like, are you being sarcastic with me? And he flat out tells them, I don't know how to be sarcastic. It's not a trait I possess. I don't know how to fool you. I don't know how to kid with you. I'm just being me. I'm just telling how I see it.
And to be good with like stocks, like numbers and stuff like that on that level, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like even not knowing the movie, just knowing what stocks and that kind of like mathematics is like you probably would be very good in that field if you were on the spectrum.
And if he is on the spectrum, and that's how the real individual person was like in real life, one of the best performances I've ever seen of that kind of condition.
Yeah, well, very good. Good to hear. I saw another movie that nobody should see. Actually, I take that back. I'll make fun of it. I saw the new Point Break.
Okay, for a second I thought it was the Alvin and the Chipmunks one.
No, Chipwrecked? No. Unfortunately, we didn't get that at my theater.
What a surprise.
Right? Well, because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
But no, so I saw Point Break because I was bored after one of my shifts one night, and I didn't feel like going home. And one of my coworkers who had also just recently got off was like, "Well, I'm going to see Point Break," and I was like, "Okay, it's a free ticket, right?" Because I went into it not even really wanting to see it, but I was like, "Okay, fine." So we went and saw Point Break, and this might be another reason why I didn't feel like bored or anything like that at any time in the Hateful Eight, but like I don't think I've been that bored with a movie than I've been with Point Break. Like it, for all of the like extreme stunts and whatnot that are in that movie, it is so low stakes. Like,
so basically, you walked out asking for your money back.
My free money. I would have. I would have. But no. I mean, I don't think. I think ultimately, like, it more or less was worth like the ticket price if you went in wanting to see these guys like go surfing and go base jumping and stuff like that. It was a really well shot extreme sports montage kind of thing, you know, like the shit that was all the rage in like the 90s with that dudes doing motocross and hang gliding and shit like that. Like it was great for that. And I think it would have been a fine like movie in that regard, and it would have been a great, like, I guess you would call it a heist movie, even though it wasn't really about a heist.
Unlike the original Point Break.
Yeah, where it was all about a heist.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be like
heists.
Yeah, and it just happened to be surfers. Like
extreme thrill seekers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, these guys take that the extreme thrills, they take that to the limit, and then like
the heisting stuff is very low.
Yeah, it's just kind of there.
Which
but
I was
like,
afraid of.
Had it been under a different name, had it not been a Point Break remake, it's different enough that you'll have a couple people go, oh, they just ripped off Point Break. But like by calling it Point Break, now you have like 10 times as many or like 100 times as many people going, this is a shitty remake of Point Break.
Yeah,
like I think they would have been much better just calling it like Extreme Heist.
Yeah, like when they
something stupid like that.
They remade Red Dawn.
Yeah.
And for the most part that remake, outside changes to the villains, stays pretty faithful to what the original Red Dawn was. Mm-hmm. This one, they took one of the core concepts of what happened in the original Point Break while remaking it, the extreme stunts.
Yeah.
Outside of the fact that, they were thrill seekers, but their main objective was robbing banks and having someone get on the inside and try and stop them. This one just took the idea of the extreme sports, and every single trailer I saw for it was billed more for that than the actual plot line of the film.
And rightfully so, because the whole movie is.
Like, this could have been like one of those spectacle pieces they show at like planetarium theaters.
Yeah.
Like in the DC area.
Could have been. There were certain shots that were just straight up like, this is just like a demo for dudes wearing those like flying squirrel suits.
And having a GoPro strapped to their nuts.
Yeah. And dude, some of those shots were a fucking GoPro.
Not surprised.
It was for the most part well shot, but like could have been better. In like those scenes. But
like when remaking an 80s film, this is a prime example of what the fuck you don't do.
Yeah. Yes. This was not Point Break. It was something else.
Yeah.
Which had they not called it Point Break, it would have been a fine film. Not a great film, not a bad film.
Spectacular.
Yeah. Right. But yeah. I will let everyone know. Yes, they did put in the iconic.
Oh Jesus!
Stupid ass. Oh, you know what? No, fuck the original Point Break, because I thought it was right. I thought it was stupid in the first Point Break, and it was even worse in the second Point Break. The fucking like, I'm gonna point up my gun in the air and just shoot up. Like, it was dumb.
I wish they put that in the trailer, because at that point you would have seen the only scene you would have wanted to see in this remake.
But again, I feel like that scene is not famous because of Point Break. That
it's famous because of Hot Fuzz.
Like, no one saw Point Break when that came out in the 90s, and they were like, that's the scene to remember. Yeah. Like, it's Hot Fuzz that made that scene famous.
They show you, okay, here's what happens in Point Break. Yeah. Here's it in our film. There, boom, case closed. Move on to the next.
The scene that everyone references now, and I've never understood, like, when I saw it, I never was like, that's the scene, is when Gary Busey is telling Keanu Reeves to go buy meatball sandwiches, and he's like, yeah, I made the best meatball sandwiches, go get them. He's like, go. And he's like, actually, get me 2. And so, Utah goes out, and he rolls the window down, and he goes, Utah, make it 2. And so my brother was always sending me, like, when he was like doing military training, everyone always quotes the Utah, You talk.
Really?
Make it 2. Yeah, people fucking love that scene.
I've
I
never
would have
heard that.
The only other scene I would have figured would
if
be
Hot
great
Fuzz did it.
was the
Probably.
the dead president's masks.
Yeah.
And just the robbing of the bank.
Rock and roll.
Remember how 90s and
Yeah.
wonderful it is when Keanu Reeves has no parachute and a gun and he goes, fuck it! He jumps out the fucking plane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Catherine Bigelow directed that movie, man. You know, Hurt Locker herself.
Zero Dark 30, yeah.
Zero Dark 30.
So that's what I think of Point Break.
Yeah.
So, I guess for our listeners at home, that's 2 recommendations: The Hateful Eight and The Big Short, and one probably stay the fuck away.
Yeah. Get it for free when it comes out on video.
Yeah.
Did you know, speaking of recommendations, like what happens with every movie that comes out, The Hateful Eight got pirated and, posted on,
Shocker.
Pirate Bay or whatever.
A screener got leaked.
Yeah. And apparently the hackers that cracked the code and put it up online, after they watched it, actually sent a formal apology to Quentin Tarantino because they were like, this movie was so good, we now feel bad about putting it up online for free.
Yeah.
I'm okay with shit like that happening as long as, you didn't realize it's really great and then you actually go out and see it and then pay money for it.
Okay.
I'm against it
Yeah,
happening.
I'm against that, but okay.
I am pro people going out and
wheels
paying
returning
money
it,
for
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm
No,
happy
I get-
this
I get-
outcome happened.
I get your sentiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
get what
I'm anti it getting to that.
Yeah, it's anti-piracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one of the greatest ways you can stop that is just stop fucking sending out screeners. I don't care who you think you're sending them to, how airtight you make it. Just have...
Well, I think that it comes with a certain amount of knowledge that it's probably going to get leaked. Like, that's why Star Wars The Force Awakens didn't get sent out to the MPAA.
Boom. Exactly.
And it didn't, to my knowledge, it didn't get leaked early.
Yeah, that's because they made sure shit like that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, maybe Quentin Tarantino had or the Weinsteins, because they probably had more control over shit like that happening. But they were willing to take the risk.
Yeah, but I mean,
Because for whatever the pros are for sending those screeners out, I don't know who they were going to. The
probably
Academy,
Academy.
and
His
the
nominations
and
are
the
in 2
ratings
weeks.
board for something like that. People actually, for some reason, movie theaters actually give a shit about the ratings board, and I can do a whole episode on why.
Watch
the
Rated
MPAA
R.
Yeah. Watch the movie, or this film is not yet rated.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
I'm
and-
fine with the ratings being followed.
I'm not. But that again, watch this film is not yet rated. But for something as violent as The Hateful Eight, it had to go out to the MPAA, and that's one of your screener copies. Or that's probably 10 of your screener copies at least, right there. And then there's a whole jungle of other people that
There's
need,
over 1,000 members. There's over 1,000 members in the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences.
and they need to get screener copies for for their
But
own
who
uses.
are the
with-
members of that?
I mean, it's filmmakers, writers, press. It's
if
a
it's
pretty
someone
eclectic
in
group.
the industry leaking it,
Which is what it was. They traced
Yeah.
it to a management agency.
oh gee, a
And it was-
management agency.
Yeah, and it wasn't
Okay.
just management agencies. We're against management agencies now, are we, Josh?
No, but I mean, if it's if it's a screenwriter leaking it, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a management agency is the people that manage those people. You'd
Yeah.
think that they would have more, just as much respect.
Apparently,
No, I honestly would not think that.
the staff of this management, obviously it wasn't the managers themselves,
Yeah.
someone maybe an intern or somebody. And it wasn't just the Hateful Eight that got leaked from that management agency. It was basically everything that was under consideration for Best
Yeah.
Picture. So The Big Short got leaked as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, you track it down by 50 movies came out of this place.
Yeah.
That's how we found it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and the fact that all the screeners have a watermark.
That's
But-
true. They
But I mean, they're review screenings for films that could easily be done as well for things to help decrease the chance of screeners being sent
when you
out
have
and
these
leaked.
when you have these companies this organization that's worldwide,
Yeah.
or at least countrywide. It's probably people all around the world. Anyway, regardless, there's hundreds of reasons why you do screeners instead of open screenings, and why screeners happen in general. And there's always going to be shitty people who take advantage of that.
Yeah, or shitty people that work for people that get a hold of screeners in this case.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, depending on where the screener gets sent.
Right. So, moving on. Jesus Christ. I think to kind of wrap things up on the Hateful Eight, I think to kind of corroborate what Jake was saying, I do think it is kind of an exercise in self-indulgence with Tarantino, but if we've noticed anything about 21st century Tarantino, it's all kind of a bit self-indulgent.
But I mean, I think
starting with Inglourious Bastards.
I think it's
for sure.
It's like you were saying. It's getting like, we see his influences more in this one and this one, and this one. This is clearly his most self-indulgent.
But and here's the thing: I would then go on to say the entire idea of a fucking roadshow is self-indulgent.
Oh yeah, that leads to like the fact that, hey, I filmed this Inglourious 70 millimeter. I have again, I have no problem with it, but that like to do that and then have this like 3-hour movie is very self-indulgent.
Yeah. Well,
but if it works and we start getting like what was supposed to happen with Grindhouse, like I would have loved to have a resurgence of Grindhouse movies in theaters, you know, because like there's always going to be like Grindhouse movies that are like straight to video. If we get like more like road shows and we get like more 70 millimeter presentations, like I don't know about anyone else, but I'm going to be so
No,
happy.
that's totally fine, but it doesn't change the fact that it's like super self-indulgent, like the movie itself.
When I went to Comic-Con and there was the segment of when it came up, the whole narration, because they had a whole video piece for explaining the roadshow prospect of this film. The entire narration was done by Samuel L. Jackson, and they had spliced in footage of, like, archival footage of roadshow events happening for other films. They talked about how the lenses that filmed this film were the same ones that filmed Ben-Hur.
Yes.
You know, just...
Yeah, that chariot sequence, yeah.
The entire film. Just the way they went about explaining this event was just, breathtaking.
Yeah.
And for even a light cinephile like myself, it made me say, I don't care how expensive this event is going to be. I want to make sure I see this.
And for something so like, and again, I'm not, I'm the one who forwarded or at least backed up Jake's notion on self-indulgence. But they took the fucking trouble to retrofit over 90 theaters with 70 millimeter film projectors. And
they paid for it too. The Weinsteins paid for it.
And they gave out fucking free, well, I guess it's built into the price of admission. They gave out souvenir playbills, and it's just like, I think any one of us here in the Geek Out crew, Josh, you called yourself a light cinephile, and what is Josh Butler but a fan? I think we all can stake claim to the term cinephile, and for me anyway, it was such a fucking joy to have that experience, because I've nerded out on this podcast, or geeked out more appropriately, that about intermissions. I never thought I would see a first run movie ever again with an intermission, much less an overture as sinister as this fucking thing. And this is coming from the guy that came up with the score for The Exorcist 2. Have you guys ever seen The Exorcist 2?
No.
That movie fucking sucks. But it's got a Morricone score, so it's all right. But it was just such a joy to like have that experience, and both times, because I've seen it twice in the roadshow because I love it, and both times the theater was like pretty well for something that's like over 3 hours. And one time was on New Year's Eve, and the other time was like the last showing on a Sunday night. It was very well attended both times.
And let me ask a question. If, say, episode 8 or episode 9 or even any of the anthology specials got a roadshow viewing as well as a regular show viewing, would you go out of your way, price increase and all that, to see the roadshow viewing of that?
Yeah, I totally plan on going to see... I've seen the Hateful Eight, standard sort of
hybridized.
But I still want to see the roadshow, and like we made plans to go see it this week, so you can finally see the movie, Josh.
You guys are going to see it at the AFI theater?
Probably going to go up to the AFI theater.
I hear, because my friends in DC saw it at the roadshow at the AFI theater. Did you get the in the hybridized version? Did you get the opening title card for the overture that just said overture?
No, it was just blank.
Okay. what the AFI theater does is they have the curtains down, but they have them timed to the overture. So as soon as the overture ends,
I heard that they do that, and I got such a nerd like cinephile boner.
Such a chubby.
Yeah. Oh God, I was just like, fuck yeah. Like I'm a bit of a film snob, like beyond just being.
You've actually gone to the school for it.
Yeah, and I've worked in movie theaters for nigh on 10 years now, and like handled film and stuff like that. Like for something like this, like I would accept no less than something like the AFI Center, because like I feel like they have that much more respect for the art of like film, and
they preserve shit.
Yeah,
they team up with the National Film Registry.
Exactly, and like I've heard,
yeah. And this is our favorite turd of the 21st
They
century.
polish all the turds. But they actually their toilets, they don't go to the municipal plumbing. They just have a septic tank and they preserve it.
Yeah, the finest vintage 2015.
Yeah,
Pinkies
I mean,
up while you wipe your buttholes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be clear that like I don't think Tarantino's being indulgent with the roadshow. I just thought like the movie like itself was like, and again, there's nothing wrong with that because that's very much the Tarantino thing.
It takes a lot for me to you have to really say something if your movie's over 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, and again, at the end of the day, I don't think it did. But
well, imagine if Titanic was a roadshow.
And that's part of it. Like, but again, I love the fact that Tarantino is his proponent for keeping that tradition alive. So if people want to do that, they can go do that.
Oh, tits! Did Titanic have?
No,
it didn't have an.
No, it's on 2 tapes. If you get the tape for
right,
Gods and
Generals
Generals was the last movie to have an intermission.
I didn't see Gods and Generals.
Yeah, neither did I.
Theaters.
Neither did I. But I've heard at the theater people have talked.
Like how Star Wars came out and brought back everyone's nostalgia of that time period. The roadshow of this film coming out and bringing back, much like how Grindhouse did, a special style and event of seeing a film. It's nice having something like come back in 2016. That when is the last time a roadshow happened for a mass film?
I believe in the 70s.
No, I mean there was talk about Apocalypse Now getting the roadshow treatment, but
Sound of Music.
But something that did.
Sound of Music had an intermission, and
I mean, it was a roadshow though.
But it didn't. It didn't come with a souvenir program though. If that's, but
that means anything.
Only reason I know that is because
Yeah.
they did the re-release of the music, like the live musical.
Yeah.
And Stephen Moyer was in it. I was like, that's cool. When I was reading about it, and it said it was like the original one is a roadshow.
Yeah.
And here's something fucking hilarious. Here's something fucking out of this world. It was preserved by like the BBC or something, where they were like, if there's ever a nuclear holocaust, the film that will play to raise morale is The Sound of Music. Like that's the movie they chose.
But that's fitting because that's what movie is that? The Postman? No.
Costner?
No,
and Tom Petty?
There's some no.
Oh, you're talking about Wall-E when he plays Hello Dolly?
No.
Oh.
No, it was live action. But there's some like post-apocalyptic movie where like everyone like gets together and they watch Sound of Music and like something happens to the screen and all these like hardened like criminal like types are just like, we want to watch Sound of Music.
I think I know what you're talking
I'm trying
about.
I'm trying to think.
It is glorious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
look it up, kids. Tweet us.
So like if the Sound of Music, if it's to believe that was a roadshow event, came out when?
If it's to be believed.
Like 65.
Okay, so 65, 70s would have been the last time this would have happened, well before any of us were born. The fact that today we get to experience something like that is monumental.
Like I said, I was like, jerking off, but metaphorically.
I mean, this is one of those times where
Okay,
I'm...
Pee Wee Herman, calm down.
This is one of those times where I'm happy that Hollywood is out of original ideas. You know, the fact that they can bring back something like this.
Always got to bring it back to Hollywood.
What is it? What is
Hollywood
it?
has never had an original idea. Can we just get that out of the way?
There's only like 3 stories out there.
Like let's calm down. Shakespeare didn't have original ideas. All right, fucking
most
nerds.
of his plays are histories.
Okay, excuse me for using an overused term.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is it?
You're excused.
What is it about the intermission that you love? Is it the fact that you get to collect your thoughts and kind of like and then dive back into it?
Yeah, let me. I'll to close out this episode. Unless you guys have something else to say.
I'm good.
No.
Unless I can find out what movie that was that had the Sound of Music before you end.
Sure. I'll take my time. Not Steranko slap status, but I'll take the. So this was my experience watching the Roadshow the first time, and I guess to a lesser extent the second time. I walk in right as the overture is starting because the Roadshow, they don't have any previews at all, and so I'm like,
just like the Alamo Drafthouse.
right. So I was like, I'm running a little late, but it's cool. There's gonna be previews, and so I'm like, like hustling up Chinatown, like, and I get in the theater, and I'm like, okay, trailers should be starting now. Cool. I love trailers. I don't get trailers, obviously. Like the overture, like fucking starts, and it's like the most sinister, and you can hear people kind of like rustling, like kind of like, oh, fuck, because it's a very. If you guys at home haven't heard the Hateful Eight overture, first off, sorry we spoiled the entire movie for you. We did warn you. Second off, find the Hateful Eight overture on iTunes or on Spotify or on YouTube.
Or buy the album.
Or buy the album, or just buy the track. I don't know. And listen to it. It is the most sinister thing I think Ennio Morricone has ever composed.
Definitely.
And this is the guy that scored John Carpenter's The Thing and The Exorcist 2: The Heretic.
I've seen like moments of it.
It's like you saw Excalibur. It's directed by the guy that directed Excalibur.
Yeah, and Excalibur's like I don't even. That's a whole other fucking ball of wax. But like, yeah, I've seen like clips of The Exorcist 2, and it's like there was never a need for The Exorcist 2. You want to talk about a movie almost ruining the previous one by being like, she's fucked again. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Exorcist 3 is actually pretty good.
Yeah, there's some, and I will say real quick, I was shopping with my sister at Giant, like getting snacks and stuff, and they had like the $5 DVD collection. I should have taken a picture, sent it to you. It had a picture of no, even fucking better, dude. And I've seen this movie, The Fly 2, and even better on the top it says collector's edition. You could buy the one fucking single disc bullshit, and that's a collector's edition because The Fly 2 that ends with. I'm not even going to say spoiler because fuck it. It ends with like the main boss dude. Because remember on the end of The Fly, they're like, we can get in and we can zip-zack blah, blah, blah backwards and make them better again. And you're like, that's retarded. That would never happen. That happens in The Fly too. And the boss guy becomes one with the machine, and he's like this like one long
Superman 3 style?
Yeah, he's like this like one long wormy shit man. And the movie ends and he's like going, bah! And like they're like scientists are going, ha, 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 ha. That's how the movie ends. Collector's edition.
So watch The Exorcist 2 if you want. It's laughably bad. Exorcist 2 is laughably. But anyway, so like people are like, oh shit,
yes,
like what kind of?
There it is.
Yeah. Oh shit.
It's spreading.
Like,
I love it.
What kind of like they were just? Everyone went in thinking it was going to be a romp. Everyone thought it was going to be like your like Tarantino-esque like Django like dun dun dun.
Well, you told me you were like, did any other trailer get it wrong?
Like tonally speaking,
yeah, more than that. And
this past year,
yeah.
Anyway.
And the answer is no. I forgot what the one movie I was like.
I don't think it got it wrong in a bad way though. Just
it was misleading.
It was
floating
misleading.
that out there.
I'm trying to remember what was
I didn't mind that I didn't know that it was going to be sinister. If that
misleading, and then it turned into a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Well, like again, like misleading. Like I feel like implies a certain amount of malice, and I don't
deception.
Yeah, like
Well,
I don't feel like I was deceived. You know what I'm saying? Like I just feel like it didn't give it all away, and like happily so. Like it didn't show doomsday.
Or didn't even give it away away correctly.
Give it away now.
Like it
Oh,
was.
no, I think it was fine. I think it was fine. These guys are implying that they think it was a bad thing. I think it was fine.
Okay.
I feel like it was a good trailer for the movie.
Cool. Give it away now.
Money.
And then what reinforces the overture, I mean, yes, it's the mood setter, but what reinforces it is the opening titles aren't really less sinister at all. Like you've got like the steady like executioner's drum beat, like dun 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 dun, and you see like the wooden Jesus, and he's like, "Oh, I'm wooden Jesus."
Yeah,
and he's like, and like
I said, "What up, Jesus?"
Yeah, I said, "Shit, I'm chilling." I said, "I'm not gonna go any further."
you're seeing all these like landscapes, like you feel how fucking
cold.
Yeah, you feel how fucking brutal that landscape is, especially when that blizzard hits fucking Minnie's haberdashery.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yes.
What is a haberdashery?
A haberdashery is a hat shop. It's a joke because Minnie doesn't like people wearing hats in her establishment.
Hats off when you enter the haberdashery.
I think Tim Roth says as much. He's like, "Oh, it's a joke."
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay.
it's an antiquated term for a hat store.
And Minnie's hat store would have just sounded dumb.
Dumb.
Yeah.
Dashery.
Yeah.
Minnie's hat store.
So yeah, it's reinforced. And everyone's like, oh, kind of like wrestling, and like people are like uncomfortably laughing at like every use of the N-word. The guy behind me would kind of chuckle every time, and I turned back during the intermission, and he was black, and I was like, okay, cool, we're fine. And and then when I saw it the second time, two guys in front of me kept laughing, and they were not black, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking kick you in the back of the head. But the racists. But
Did you though?
I didn't.
Oh.
That was like kind of like that Louis C.K. joke where he doesn't actually like stand up to anybody.
Yeah.
I love that music. None of that happened, by the way.
Yeah. I'm just the coolest in my own fantasies. But I like how in my own fantasies I'm not the biggest badass. I'm Bud Abbott. But anyway,
I'm Abbott.
Hey,
and everyone can get that reference now if they go to our YouTube channel and watch our Halloween video.
The film occurs as it does, and spoilers again, but at this point, why? The movie, the first half ends with Bruce Dern, the first of the Hateful Eight, meeting his untimely end at the hands of Major Marquise Warren, and then followed by Bob slowly closing the piano like a coffin, like you get the creak, and then it says intermission and cuts to black, and people are like, "Oh my god," because it's such. Like one guy was like, "This is the most intense thing I think I ever saw," and I was like, "Bitch, did you not see Django Unchained?" But like,
didn't even get an intermission on that bitch.
Yeah, they're all like, "Oh man!" Like everyone's like, so few people actually went out to get concessions. Second time I saw it, quite a few people actually went out to get concessions or take a piss or whatever they had to do. But the first time, everyone was still like, kind of like murmuring. So that was the purpose of the intermission, Jake. Everyone was like, "Oh my god," because probably it's not the most violent thing that happens on the screen, but the most horrific thing that happens on the screen happens right before the intermission. And everyone's like, "Well, do you think he was like lying about that? Do you think he was like, he was just trying to get him to like go for his gun? Do you think he actually sucked his dick? That's not hyperbole, by the way." And it's just like, they're all, yeah. And then it's like, I can't imagine, like Jake or Chris was alluding to earlier, I can't imagine the second half of the general release without the intermission, but still having the voiceover narration.
I think the voiceover, again, it's Tarantino putting himself in his movie, and I think by Tarantino doing the voiceover was weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he gets, as he should, like gets a joy like, reading his own words, but it just was weird.
I mean, would you rather him be one of the 8?
I'd rather him not be in his own
I'd rather
movies.
him be one of the guys in Minnie's haberdashery that morning.
Or I would have loved for him to have been one of the 3 dead bodies that Sam Jackson has at the beginning.
Oh yeah,
I would have loved to have been that.
What if we got naked Tarantino being sucking Samuel L. Jackson in the snow?
I mean,
with his glorious peen, just blop blop blop.
Let's not forget what we got. He wanted to throw himself into Django, and.
Oh yeah, he blows up.
Yeah. I mean, would you rather?
Yeah,
another
I would have
moment
loved.
of.
I would have best.
That's
That's
what
my
you
favorite
get for
death.
putting yourself in this movie.
I would have loved to have for him to have been Zoe Bell's character.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Throw on the fake Australian accent again.
And the thing is, unlike Django Unchained, I was like,
unlike Jackie Brown.
Yeah, I guess Jackie Brown too. unlike
like how many of his films does he throw himself into?
All of them. Unlike Kill Bill, where like. The entire Yakuza goes out at the bride's hands fairly disposably. Every death you feel.
Yeah, every death is a hard death.
It's a mean movie. It's
like I feel like
I love the
Dern is like the cheapest death, or
yeah.
except for the fucking build up, with his sucking dick. So that's the give and take, I guess.
Yeah.
I love the play
One
with
guy
this,
begging for his life.
the speed of the voices, like especially at the end where Samuel L. Jackson is talking. He's like, hey, slow, and he's like talking in slow mo because he's like being drained of life.
Yeah.
And then
you feel how exhausted
Yeah.
him and Goggins
Yeah, yeah.
I
are.
was a little upset at the low res way that they did that. Like it sounds like it like when I slow down something back in film school, and like it was just like you feel like the particling of the voices, and I'm like, you could do this better.
Yeah, clean it up.
Yeah.
But there was almost kind of a grindhouse quality to that too, right? Like
Yeah.
there's certain moments where the film looks like a little more washed out than it
Mhm.
should be.
Yeah.
But particularly when they're like bleeding out, it's almost like angelic white.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course after the movie's done, everyone's like, "All right, man, that was like." Yeah. Some people in the theater fucking love it. This is one of those movies like Spectre, though. Unlike Spectre, there's more people in the like it camp than there are in the fuck this movie camp. But I've seen some people like me and Jake's mutual friend Vernon that are like, "Fuck the worst Tarantino film ever."
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, for me it's a top, it's top tier. It's like top half.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you only get like 8 to choose from, but it's like unless you count 4 rooms, but or if you split Kill Bill into 2 volumes or into 2 separate films.
But then you start wondering, well, does From Dusk Till Dawn and True Romance count?
Yeah, apparently he basically all but co-directed Planet Terror as well.
Yeah.
So
And so we won't have the option to own the roadshow version, will we?
I mean,
I wouldn't
if
be
you buy a 70 millimeter.
I wouldn't be surprised if he kept it like the entire point of the roadshow was that it was exclusive to the roadshow.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the DVD release or the Blu-ray or digital download is the standard.
Yeah.
Well,
movie
hopefully they'll have.
release.
I would love to have I would love to have it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't offer it.
Or then for like the Blu-ray, hell, if it happens DVD release, they have a version of it that, from what I understand, they include the intermission so that you don't get,
The Tarantino voiceover, like da 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 da.
yeah, like it
It's
just
been
doesn't
15
happen.
minutes. Someone
Oddly.
poisoned the coffee.
Or like
Who
like,
was it? Oh, guess who? She saw.
And only Dumbledore saw it.
or like include like the
Kills Dumbledore.
or like include the overture, but just don't have like obviously for the screen increase for the
I got all my
specific
fucking
shots.
Yeah, I got all my fucking iTunes. I'll just play Overture if I
You
want.
can make any movie have a fucking intermission if you want to have
Yeah,
an
it's
intermission
called
on
the pause
DVD.
button.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess I'm hoping for too much.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
again,
like-
I would
like-
love to have.
I would,
it.
yeah, I would love it, but I totally see Tarantino being like, no, that was for the theater experience, because much like me, Tarantino is a huge proponent of the movie theater experience in general, and I can totally see him being like that's why you don't get it in the non-roadshow version.
Real quick, film or digital?
film.
yeah, I just watched the documentary about that, and it's very, very.
Oh, yeah?
interesting. That's
Side by side.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Oh, maybe that'll be my next.
'Cause I don't know.
side
Honestly,
podcast.
after watching that documentary, I don't know how to answer that question.
It's
I
always
really
film.
got
I
to
do.
think about it.
Always film for me. Well, yeah. How do you answer it?
You just dangle it out there.
Whatever makes it better for the film itself. Like, if the film's
But-
quality would be served better being filmed on film, then do it in film. If it would be served better filming it digitally, then do it digitally.
So you're like a Tommy Wiseau guy.
Oh God, is that what I am? Because I'll say I'll pick right now.
What do you...
He filmed them both
he-
simultaneously.
Yeah, The Room. He filmed it simultaneously in 35 millimeter and digital video. Literally, like somebody, not him, invented a side by side rig, which is basically just an old school 3D rig where you have 2 cameras,
Yeah.
and shot it simultaneously on both things because if the disaster artist is to be believed, he literally did not know the difference between the two. Except for the fact that it's like clearly two different cameras, but like didn't understand the difference, like in the technical sense.
Yeah, like, I mean, if Star Wars, the colors pop more on film than digital, then great, have it be filmed on film.
Yeah. The literally at this point, the only reason why I would say do it digital is if you have a low budget, because right now it's so much cheaper to shoot something digitally than on film, because film is on the way out and digital is so ubiquitous.
Didn't Star Wars save Kodak?
I don't know.
They saved Marvel Comics.
Well, I meant like the fact that Star Wars was filmed on film saved.
You mean
some...
like the episode 7?
Yeah.
Could be. I haven't read that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like Abrams, in his quest to keep everything kind of retro and grounded, did it, entirely on film. Of course, Nolan's one of those film guys. Yeah, both of them. And of course, Tarantino's a film.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Scorsese hems and haws.
He's cool for side by side because he's someone who people obviously respect very much, who's dealt with both and has success with both. Now, obviously, he's had more success with film. I will say, after watching the documentary, though, the digital side is very, very interesting. Like all the pros of
Cameron and Fincher.
All the pros of digital are very interesting. And again, I really like George Lucas a lot, and I've become like just even a bigger fan of his. Just
born again Lucas.
Just even yeah, but I mean like even more so, just as not just for Star Wars, what he's done for the industry and independent filmmaking.
For ILM, man.
Yeah, exactly.
For
and his bullet points for digital film are fascinating.
Yeah, like they have their merits, but like it's for me, it's kind of like the debate on like vinyl records. For me, film is vinyl records for audio files.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like it's warmer, it's quote unquote realer, and all that stupid hipster bullshit.
Yeah,
which I can freely admit. Also, I would love. Next thing for Tarantino to tackle, Laserdiscs. Bring them back, Tarantino. You can do it.
Yeah, put the Hateful Eight.
Yeah, right.
70mm roadshow
do the
on
fucking roadshow.
Laserdisc.
The only way you can get it is Laserdisc, and I will be there front and center, dick out, waiting for my disc.
I don't know any other way we can end this one.
I will trust you. Right? Cut it.
Yeah.
There's your intermission.
Yeah.
I'll close the piano.
Oh, that's a picture I don't want to see.
You're seeing pictures now, aren't you?
Oh.
In stereo.
Those intense Samuel Jackson eyes. But yeah, man, it's been another installment of Catching Up. We hope you're caught up in the new year, and we'll be back next week. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
I'm disgusted.
Hi, disgusted. I'm Sam.
Oh, okay, Dad.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Pana.
Damn, that beat was dope.